All right, let's get the show on the road. Thank you everybody for joining us during this relaxing, not at all busy time of the year. I can only imagine the things that people are giving up to be here with us though, so I appreciate your time. My name is Ellen McWhorter, and I'm the director of the honors program at Merrimack. I'm also an English professor here. With me are members of our admissions team, some of whom you may have met or seen in name only on emails. And I also have two of our current students here, Mia and Maria, who you'll get to hear from in just a sec. So first things first, huge congratulations to all of you on your admittance to the Merrimack Honors Program. You're a part of our most competitive applicants, and tonight is all about showcasing for you the kinds of unique opportunities and cutting edge innovations that you'll be part of if you join this community. If you've been to an open house, you've heard some of this before, but tonight I also want to feature some additional details, linger a bit, if you will, on topics like honors faculty-led research, our senior capstone projects, that process, honors leadership opportunities, and graduate and law school training through the honors program. And I'll also be turning frequently to Mia and Maria to share their real stories and experiences about what I am presenting to you. And just as a fun aside, they don't know what I'm going to ask them during this conversation. So you are absolutely going to get real deal answers. I'd also like to invite everybody before I get going to type in any questions you have in the Q&A button. Whenever they strike you, we'll get to those. And then at the end, the very end of this session, we'll have a formal Q&A where I can address everything. So start off, big abstract. We all know the lore that college is about exploring, right? It's for building a sense of identity. It's about building your professional foundation for yourself. And Merrimack does an exceptional job of helping students discover themselves here. From our first year seminar classes through our senior year capstone projects, co-ops, and that sort of thing. We definitely have loads of scaffolding in to help students become more engaged, more enlightened, and more prepared for those awesome next steps. But here's my question for you. What about those students who already know one hugely important thing about themselves? That they're voracious learners, that they're top tier intellects, right? That their minds are already on fire and that they're hungering for academic challenge, academic adventure. This is where the honors program comes in. Merrimack's position in the landscape of higher education has been changing for the better over really the recent like 10 or 15 years. As a result of our constant innovation and our unique investment in student support. We also have a president who is deeply invested in our growth, and we're thankful for that every day. Aligning with that, our honors program has doubled in size over the past few years. This is not, I mean, it's a bragging right? So I'm pretty proud of it as the director. But beyond that, this is important because we've noticed that high caliber students feed off of each other, right? Good ideas, good levels of motivation, they spread like wildfire, both inside the classroom and then beyond. And a strong community is part of what makes MC Honors so special. I would encourage everybody here, please come to our accepted student days in the spring. You'll get to see this in action. For now, a taste of the action. Mia, Maria, you're both very invested in this community. You're constantly around, involved. Tell us a little bit about the kinds of things you're involved with. See if you could give the audience a sense of what the MC Honors community is like.
I'm Mia. The things that I'm involved in the honors program are the Honor Student Council. I'm the president of the Honor Student Council. I'm also the Honors Ambassador Coordinator and an Honors Peer Mentor. Within the honors program, it's all about community, and that's kind of what made me want to get involved in the program.
When you say, Mia, if I could just push you a little bit further on that, when you say like we're all about community, I mean, I know what you mean because I'm there living it every day. But can you say a little bit about that? Like, what's your understanding of how peer mentors work? Like, what's the vibe in the commons? What can people expect if they join this community?
Yeah, of course. So being a part of the community is huge for me. In the Honors Commons, which is the third floor of our Sakowicz Center on campus, is where you'll find all of our students. Constantly, it's packed in there with people doing homework, hanging out with their friends, just like talking, which is just like a safe space for people. And also being an honors peer mentor means that within the first semester, Each freshman in the honors program gets assigned a peer mentor who they'll meet with one-on-one and in group meetings, and it's a great way to like get in touch with an upperclassman who wants to like make sure that you're successful as well as you getting to meet others honor students.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Maria, did you want to build on any of that?
Yeah, I also do the same. The honors student council, the honors peer mentor, the all of those and honors ambassador, and that definitely one of the best things where you get to tell everybody about the community and all the things that we love about honors program. I also wanted to add that for the past 3 years, I lived in honors LLC, so living learning community, which also was incredibly beneficial, especially freshman year, living with the same people who you take classes with and you hang out with the same people in the honors commons. Just like seeing the same people really helped building stronger relationships and getting to know people on deeper level. So that's another part of the community.
Thank you so much. I'll just add a small anecdote as an English professor. I teach classes all the time for the honors program, only for the honors program these days. And one of the things that I've just noticed comparing honors classes to non-honors classes is that the students that you have, there's not that naysayer in the room. Those of you who are teachers may find this relatable. Those of you who are in high school, I'm guessing, definitely find this relatable. And those of you who are in college and possibly transferring into Merrimack now, you will also find this relatable. Do you know how sometimes when you're in general population classes, there is this sense, this sort of pressure to not be involved, like you have to play it cool and not be the person raising your hand or not be the person who actually is really, really smart and like demonstrating that? We just don't have those kinds of pressures in honors classes. And as a professor, you can imagine it's a delight to walk into class every day. But it really makes a difference not only in the general attitude of the students, but it makes a difference on how far you can go with material, on how deeply you can go into discussions. And I'll say more about that as we move on. But when I say, or when we say a driven, highly motivated community, these are the kinds of things we're talking about. People who love learning, or who at least are very good at learning and are learning to love that part of themselves. Let me move on and take you through some other honors program benefits. There are loads of them, and I could talk about these ad nauseum. I'll pick a few of my favorites for now and try to add a little bit of scaffolding detail in from open houses for those of you who've also been able to attend one of those. Honors only faculty who teach classes and offer minors made specifically for our students. A question that we frequently get in the program is, do I have to take extra classes as an honor student? Another question we frequently get is, are honors classes harder than non-honors classes? And I'd like to take a second and pause to say a few things about that. One, you do not take additional honors classes as an honor student. You take honors sections of general education requirements or major requirements. What that means is that you don't have to, when we say that you have to take, let's say, 8 honors classes to graduate, what we mean is you're taking honors sections of 8 classes that you would already have to take anyway. Okay. I'll dive a little bit more deeply into that on our next slide. But regarding whether classes are more difficult or not, I would make the argument, and we'll see if Mia and Maria agree with me, I would make the argument that honors classes are actually easier for highly motivated students because they don't have that pressure to not be smart or to not look so eager. There's nothing worse when you're a professor and you can kind of watch people know answers to things but be afraid to raise their hands. It's terrible. Thankfully you don't have to encounter that kind of thing in the honors program. I should also mention these honors only faculty in this slide. Uh, this is really unusual. Merrimack has, including myself, 8 full-time honors program faculty. For a school of our size, with 4,000 and some change undergraduate students, this is pretty unusual for the college to make such an investment in honors-only faculty. What this means is it gives us the bandwidth to derive innovative pedagogies to create new classes just for our groups of students. It gives us the bandwidth to really focus in on who our honor students are and what their needs are as they move out from their undergraduate classes into the job market. So generally speaking, honors classes, not only are they, I think, easier for our honor students because of the vibe of the class, but they also involve more innovative pedagogies. What I mean by that is in an honors class, you are very rarely going to get pure lecture. This is not a situation like I had in college where someone stands up for an hour, 2 or 3 times a week, and just spews information at you, and you ideally memorize some of it for a test and move on. That's just not how we work. What we do instead is we encourage our honors faculty to rely on gamification. So turning activities and thoughts into games or puzzles, right? So students can engage more with them as opposed to being like the receptacles of knowledge. Um, we also do immersion pedagogy, which is a sort of role play that will happen in classes. And some classes are fully immersive and some will have smaller assignments that are immersive. But what this means is that let's say you're taking a class with me on the literature of the Harlem Renaissance. We might decide to spend 2 weeks fully in character as as writers, as thinkers, as publishers, as editors from the 1920s and the 1930s. And on the one hand, you might be thinking like, that sounds really weird. I don't know what I would get out of it. But I can guarantee you that you will know more taking on the persona of a character. That sticks, that kind of knowledge sticks in your head. And 10 years down the road, you'll probably still be thinking, oh my God, remember when I played Langston Hughes in class, as opposed to thinking, what was the history behind that era? But that kind of active pedagogy is what we encourage in honors. And that's all I encourage from our beloved, fantastic faculty. At no point do I say to them, hey, this is an honors class, like add an extra paper or make the test harder. And I know that some people have that concern, right? One of the reasons that I hear that people are shy about joining the honors program is they're afraid that they're going to be overwhelmed. I can only assure you that that is absolutely not the case. We lose very, very, very few students. Mia, Maria, do either of you could you give us an example of an honors program class that whether it's a class that you enjoyed or just a class that involved something unique that was memorable to you?
Well, my first thought was the Intro to Philosophy, which is now renamed because it is taught by honors faculty. And like my favorite thing ever was when we were learning about the Industrial Revolution, the philosophy of it, and how people's perspectives changed. And our professor set us up in like a factory line. And he showed us how that takes away everything kind of human out of the production of any goods or any products. And that definitely really helped understanding all of that philosophy, the books that we were reading or articles. So that was really fun.
That's a fantastic example. And the professor that Maria is talking about, his name is Dr. Christian Kronstedt. You'll hear me bring him up a couple of times during this presentation. He is famous for his embodied learning curriculum. He almost every class has students out of their seats doing something. And the idea is that we learn with our entire bodies. I'll spare you the tangent on this, but the idea is that you recall things better when you're physically active while learning them. And so you can imagine an industrial revolution scene. You'll probably never forget that, Marina. That's my guess. We're going to contact you in 30 years and say, what do you remember about Merrimack? And it's going to be that story, I bet. If I could just progress down this screen, student-centered, forward-looking programming and specialized advising. I'm going to say a whole lot about the customized academics and the student-centered learning on the next slide. But something that I want to tell people about, because again, I think it's pretty unique for a school this size. Our honors faculty meet with every single incoming first-year student within the first 3 weeks of classes. On the one hand, this is a chance for us to get a little FaceTime, look at them, kind of take on that parent role and say, how are you doing? Right? And get an honest answer by the expression that they make back at us. This also, though, gives us a chance to talk about their goals for the year with them. Do they want to focus on academics? Are they more concerned about finding friends, finding people who are like them, finding that sense of belonging that Merrimack is so famous for? But the point is that every single student will have that opportunity to sit down and talk to a faculty member right away. And again, that's not every school that is able to offer that. And we are able to offer it because of our 8 full-time faculty. Customized academics and adventures, more on those two things in just a second. But I did want to pause and say, sometimes our more highly motivated incoming students will already have a really clear dream in mind. That might be to become a doctor, to go to med school, and to finish their education in their undergraduate education in 3 years. Another student might know, they might have heard of Fulbright scholarships, Fulbright fellowships, and want to secure one of those. Just know that they want to study, they want to live in a different place upon graduation for at least a few years. These are the kinds of things that those initial conversations with faculty will tease out from students. And in each case, the sooner we know those kinds of dreams that students have, the sooner we can deliberately build a pathway to success, right? So for a student who says, I want to go to med school, you can bet that we're going to have them working with our best pre-med research faculty sooner rather than later, right? Let's get that ball rolling. To a student who says, I want to get a Fulbright upon graduation, let's start reviewing what the application process looks like so we can build in experiences during your 3 or 4 years here that lead up to that story, that big impactful story that secures that kind of award for you. Exclusive honors, challenging academic options, more on those in a second. Exclusive honors events. So the honors program puts on approximately 60 events per year. And lest the students in the room be thinking, oh my God, please tell me that you are not planning those events. I'm not. In fact, it is our honor student council. It is people like Maria and Mia who decide what kinds of events we offer in any given semester. So there are always opportunities both for rest and relaxation, the kinds of events that are meant to help you decompress and deal with the stresses of day-to-day life, to professionalization events, to trainings on how to use Google Calendar efficiently, to professional development retreats on campus, and I'll say more about that in a second. But suffice it to say that those 60 events per year span a wide range. Maria, Mia, I see you shaking your heads. Talk to us about memorable events for you.
For me, I would say that one of the most memorable events that the Honor Student Council has put on is my annual fundraiser, Mia's Lemonade Stand, which I've been doing for, this is gonna be my 13th year here. It's something that I started in my hometown, but being in the Honor Student Council let me continue it here at Merrimack College, and having the honors program like have my support through that, and also being able to include the Honor Student Council in such a big thing for me was huge. And again, going back to community, the honors community always was there. And obviously the Honor Student Council helped put it all together.
I was thinking this whole time about how you were saying that we get to meet professors and the advisors. And I was just thinking about how every time you come into the Honors Commons is honestly like a separate event. There's always so many people who are, everybody's curious about like all your updates in life and all your classes and how you've been doing. And I realized that I don't think I've scheduled a meeting with an advisor in like the past 2 years. But every single time when I didn't know what to do, I would go up on the third floor of the Sackhurst Center and I'd walk into Honors Commons, and there was always so many ears and people trying to figure out a solution and just like listening to me and just trying to help in any way possible. Like honestly, every time you go up to the Honors Commons, it's like a separate event.
That's delightful and really like music to my ears to hear. I invite all of you, please, if you can come to campus for an accepted student day, please do, and we'll take you up to the Commons and you can see the space. It's pretty incredible, and I think Maria, you're gesturing towards something that's important, and that's that this, not only are we a community in where we live and what happens in classes, but the Honors Commons serves as kind of a home base for people. For those of you who are shy, for those of you who maybe are a little more introverted, or who just like quiet spaces to get things done, it's almost like when you come into that space, you can't help but make friends. Right. And you can't help but interact with the faculty, whose, by the way, offices are also in the Honors Commons space. So thank you for that. Let me go ahead and turn a little to honors academics. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Honors academics are pretty exceptional. As I mentioned already, you don't take extra honors classes, you take honors versions of classes. But the classes that we create or that we offer in the honors program are made just for our students. in this conversation so far, it's occurred to me that some of you may have no idea what kind of numbers we're talking about. I should mention that our honors program in its current incarnation has over 700 students. So if you sort of sit with that for a moment, it's pretty unique to have a space that feels so homey and comfortable in a community where honestly people know each other's names. I mean, we know each other enough to say hi as we're passing through on the walkways. It's pretty unique to have that kind of closeness while also being a community of 700 undergraduate students. I am constantly, as the director, and I know the faculty in the honors program do the same thing, I am constantly polling our students. I'm walking out into the honors commons, butting into their study sessions and saying, hey, what classes are rocking your world right now, right? Or, hey, do you remember when you took this class? What do you think could have been better? This is important because that information allows me and our honors faculty to sit down and create honors courses that are just for our students. So if you'll just take a look, for example, at the Gen Ed Foundations list, honors first year seminar is a class that every student will take, every student on campus. Our honors students will take honors sections of it. And this is a general kind of who am I? How do I become the person that I want to be? How do I navigate campus? How do I navigate this next stage in my life? It's that kind of class. If you look at what's next, though, honors science and religion and honors philosophy of fun. The philosophy of fun class, by the way, is what Maria was talking about earlier. Those two classes were created because I talked to enough students who said, I don't want to take the standard, let's say, intro to Christianity in context class at Merrimack. I want to think differently, right? I want to take more of a world religions perspective on that class. The philosophy of fun class came out of people saying, I like sort of the abstract, the concepts of philosophy, but I'm not sure that I know how to apply them to my life. Well, in both cases, Dr. Peter Ellard, who teaches science and religion, and Dr. Cronstead, who I mentioned earlier, who teaches philosophy of fun, they both took up the challenge and said, look, I bet I can create a class that better meets what our students are looking for in the classroom. And that is exactly what they did with these two classes. Science and religion is no longer a class focused entirely on Christianity. It's a class that's focused on the religious paradigms and putting them next to scientific paradigms, exploring the ways that they touch on the same material, the ways that they differentiate. It's much more practical in its sense of whether you are a science major, whether you are a liberal arts major. It gets your mind thinking about how religion and science relate to your future career, if in no other way than through concepts, than through thought patterns. Honors philosophy of fun, similar thing. Dr. Cronstead said, okay, look, if you're thinking of philosophy as this abstract thing that doesn't relate to your life, we're not doing our jobs well. What happens instead if I philosophize, if I teach you the core introductory philosophy material and connect it to fun, to our definitions of fun, to our perceptions of fun? And he's talking about everything from listening to music, to vacations, to eating ice cream. All of these things he can philosophize in the class. And so you take that skill set, the same skill set as maybe other students are getting in an introduction to philosophy class, but you are getting it applied for you in a way that is just directly built in response to our honors students. Gen Ed Connections, Honors Humanities, Honors Social Science, and Honors STEM classes. Again, those are just honors sections of other general education requirements. One of the things that we have been focusing on in the past few years, whether that's the foundations or the connections classes, is creating classes and minors that fill in needs that employers or graduates tell us to focus on. So we reach out to our alumni and we say, look, and we reach out to our friends and alumni in the business world, say, what are you seeing with Gen X? Excuse me, it's Gen X, that's me. With Gen Z and with Gen Alpha, what kinds of strengths do they have? What kinds of weaknesses do they have? And then we've worked to make classes and minors that respond directly to what they're saying. Two of the things that they've asked us to focus on, or they've said that they wish students were stronger at, self-motivating as opposed to making excuses, emotional regulation, emotional maturity. And then the second thing is thinking outside the box without sort of consulting, let's say, Google or a computer. In response to those two things, we've created a minor in creative thinking, and a minor in mindfulness studies. Happy to say more about those, but those will be offered for the first time starting next fall. And again, they were made in response to perceived weaknesses of students who are exiting undergraduate studies now. Let's see. Let me say a few words about honors directed studies and independent research. Every honors faculty member is at any given time doing multiple honors directed studies. I'm excited. I have one in the spring coming up on women in crime in early 20th century poetry. I know that's super niche and probably no one is interested in it but me and this student, but I'm pretty stoked about it. Dr. Cronstedt has done an independent study recently on the philosophy of mind. The point here is if a student has an itch to go more deeply into some kind of specific material that we do not offer in a class, honors faculty are always very willing to do independent studies with them. And those are one-on-one meetings every week. Independent research, same situation. All of our faculty are honors faculty, both because they translate in the classroom. Students have said they enjoy their classes, but also because they're top-notch scholars and researchers. Anybody who's working in the honors program could at any given time use a TA or a research assistant, someone to help them along with their material. And just this past year, Dr. Cronstedt had a team of 6 students that he was doing some embodied cognition work with. I'll spare you the details on this, but they actually got to put like little sensors all over their body and move around campus. And the idea was that they were like tracking how people move in public spaces and then how they move when they encounter other people / obstacles. Very interesting stuff. But those are the kinds of experiences you can have when you have this many 8 full-time faculty in the program. Honors contract classes, just very, very quickly mention that any student taking a class that is not honors, that is an upper level, they have the ability to do a kind of mini directed study if their professor agrees to do it with them. And those are called contract classes, where essentially the student says, I want to go more deeply, maybe more graduate level in this class. And the faculty member says, sure, let's do that. And then we mark that as honors credit for a class. Here's why this is important. Again, when you're creating that trajectory, that long trajectory of what 4 years will look like, and you want to make sure that you have stories of excellence, it can be really important to be able to show that you went above and beyond inside a classroom. You took it upon yourself, right? Not you were trying to get credit. You took it upon yourself to do a mini directed study within a class that everyone else was keeping at sort of a baseline. Honor study abroad classes, those are basically we have honor specific study abroad opportunities, but we also have classes, honor study abroad classes, or excuse me, honors, let me back up. If you study abroad, and you take classes abroad, those classes will also count for honors by definition, because you're already so far outside your comfort zone and working in a different place. But we also are not simply a set of courses and academic opportunities. We use a choose your own adventure model for honors engagement that goes sort of above and beyond what the average college experience would be like. So the idea here is we provide the adventures. You choose as a student each year, you choose which ones are for you. So in its current incarnation, students each year during that initial meeting with the faculty member that I mentioned earlier, they'll decide which thing they want to focus on that year. And the options are travel and study abroad, research and academic pedigree, leadership development, and community engagement / service. If you'll just take a quick look at the pictures that are up here, you'll see 2 of our, well, now they're graduated, students who did a semester abroad in Roxton, England. And there you see them with the British telephone booth. And then students who chose research, academic pedigree, you'll see them presenting at, I believe, the Research and Creative Achievement Conference, which we hold annually for our students on Merrimack's campus. Back to the trajectories. Each year, you choose one to focus on. Here are some pictures of community service at Matt Gives Back. That's an annual event on campus where really the whole campus comes together to pack meals that are then taken out to the local community. And then you'll see, as an example of our last trajectory, pictures from our professional development retreat, which again is held, that's not even annually, I think that's every semester. All right. I want to give you some examples of what the trajectories might look like so you get a clearer sense of why we include this particular engagement path in our offerings. Lots of people, lots of college students come out with stories that they can tell during job interviews or on graduate school applications, but they're not always encouraged to keep a repository over the course of 4 years, keep a bank of the kinds of things they do, those stories of excellence that ultimately they can craft into a clear narrative of how they have gone above and beyond during their time as an undergraduate. That is what these customized honors adventure paths, are for. And to be clear, this is unique among our peer institutions. So let me give you an example. No matter which path you choose during year one, our real goal is for you to find your people, right? To find like-minded folks who make you feel alive. Same thing for year two, no matter which path you choose, we're going to be focused on developing into a leader. Year three, growing your network, your connections, and year four, becoming a professional. But what does that look like as an example? So let's say year one, you meet with your faculty advisor that first week or second week of class, and you say, look, honestly, my goal is to get a 4.0 GPA the first semester. Like, that's what I really, 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 really want. We say, okay, sounds like maybe the academics track is the one that you want to focus on this year. So what that might look like, year one, it means forming connections with your professors. It means attending office hours. It might mean attending honors academic field trips with people like me. I take a group of students might take a group of students to Salem, Massachusetts, where we go to the Peabody Essex Museum and dive into the archives on the Salem witch trials, and then look at the literature that came out of that time period. Those are the goal is to take the academics outside of the classroom and show how intellectual scholarship is a way of life more than anything else. So let's say that year two, the student says, look, I mean, I got my 4.0 GPA. I want to keep up with academics. Year two, they might decide to serve as a mentor for our honors first year seminar classes, or they might become a peer mentor, which I believe Mia mentioned earlier in the honors program. Year three, they might decide to stick again with academics. And at that point, let's talk about directed studies, one-on-one directed studies with faculty or one-on-one directed research with faculty. They might also decide at that point, you know, I want to kick it up a notch. Let's say I want to apply for a major scholarship or award. So they might decide to apply for the Fulbright that I mentioned earlier, or they might decide to apply for a Truman Scholarship. And Mia, you're in the middle of the Truman application process right now. How's that going for you?
It's really good. I'm lucky enough. This is for everyone, but I get to meet with Dr. McWhorter every week, and we are kind of working through it together. She's been a great guide for me. It's definitely been it's a challenge in the application process, but I'm working through it, and it's definitely taken some effort to figure out what I'm going to put on my application.
For those of you who have never seen this Truman application, and I'm sure most of us probably haven't, I hadn't until I started doing this with students. There are a series of short questions that you need to answer where you'll have like 500 or 1,000 characters. And that's not a lot of space to be concise in answering questions about your history, your past, your academic prowess, and then also your goals for graduate school. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Mia is knee deep in right now. But the point is, right, that's me as a junior, and that's appropriate for where she's at, right? This is when we sort of notch it up a level. Let's say for the customized honors adventure paths, year four, you want to stick with the academic path, or let's say you want to switch in year four over to the leadership path. In both cases, you might decide to attend a professional development retreat, whether that is on campus or an honors retreat that is in, say, New York City or Washington, D.C. And those kinds of events, we're bringing in alumni who are in a variety of fields. We're bringing in our friends and colleagues who work at institutions abroad, who maybe have worked with some of our students. We're bringing those kinds of people in to make sure that that network is secure as people, well, baby step towards going out into the world. So before we open to questions, and I'm really looking forward to interacting with all of you, and I think Mia and Maria are too, I'd like to turn things over to Carrie from admissions, who can talk to you about next steps. And then please stick around and we'll do some Q&A. And I want to make sure that we get to everything that you're wondering. Carrie, you're muted, I believe.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So I'm Carrie. I'm an assistant director of admissions here at Merrimack College, and I might even be one of your assigned counselors. So look out for my name on your portal. So for next steps, if you have not already applied, we welcome your application. We would love to read it and get to know you more. So feel free to submit your Common App. We are actually having a second round of early action and early decision. So as long as you get in your Common Application by that deadline of January 15th, you'll be in that second round. And then after that, there are more rounds, but obviously, the earlier, the better sometimes. And then if you have already been admitted, congratulations, first of all, claps, claps, claps. Feel free to go on your portal. You can sign up for our Admitted Students Day. We have 3 of them coming up in the spring, so plenty of options depending on your flexibility. And we would love to see you here. You'll get to meet some faculty, meet some further students, really get the energy of the campus on your own. So it's a great opportunity. And you guys can all feel free to scan this QR code if you want to just kind of peruse the honors website on your own free time, do some light reading. We welcome you to do that. So these are definitely some great next steps that you can take. And right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and filter through some of these Q&A questions that you all have been sending in. Thank you all so much for submitting those. So the first one, you guys can kind of go around amongst yourselves, Ellen, Mia, and Maria. Someone asked, do we get to choose who we live with in the honors dorms?
What a great question. I will say this. When you are an incoming first-year student, your best bet, meaning the easiest way to secure honors housing, to make sure that you get the bigger suites, is to go random. And I know what you're thinking. No, I don't want to go random. Like, please do not make me go random. I can tell you from 15 years of experience on this campus that the vast majority of great friendships, like lifelong, I'm going to be your bridesmaid down the road friendships, come out of people who are randomly put together. And it's not random at all, right? You take an inventory at the beginning and people are paired. That algorithm that puts people together is significantly better than most of our radars for pairing people. So if I would say that, can you choose? Yes, you can. You're welcome to, but that is likelier to mean that you may end up in a double or a triple. We fill the suites first with people who we can place together as honor students. So anyway around that, you'll be living on an honors floor, right, with other honor students. It's just a question of what kind of room you'll end up in. Mia, Maria, do you want to talk about maybe upperclassmen housing?
I'll say even for first year, I know I just made sure I requested other people who are also in honors, and we also all filled out our questionnaires like very similar way. So we got exactly the rooms we wanted. And then for next 2 years, I also just chose friends, and it's a very simple portal. You request a person, then they accept your request, and that's it. You just get to live with who you want to live with. So very painless.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. For those of you who haven't seen campus, this won't, well, hopefully you'll come to an ASD and you'll have a reference point in a second. But for those of you who've seen campus, when you first come in and you see the Our City Welcome Center, the dorms, the blue houses that are right next to that, those are currently the housing for our upper class, meaning sophomores, juniors, and seniors in the honors program. And those are all rooms where people sort of put themselves in groups, and it's after first year, and then that housing is assured.
Yeah, and the matter of fact, I'm sitting in one of the rooms here right now.
Yay. What do you think of it, Maria?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I stayed here for half the summer. I stay here for all the breaks. I stay here for winter break. It's amazing. Our residential advisors are absolutely incredible. So, yeah, very happy with this place.
Lovely. the housing, for those of you who are interested, for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, the North Residential Village, which is the blue housing that I'm talking about right now, and that Maria is in right now, those are essentially townhouses. So there are 4-person, 6-person, and 6-person. eh, I guess I'll just say townhouses. I can't think of the exact word right now. But those, they're also massive. So there's like a living room. There are 1 or 2 bathrooms, depending on how big the space is. And the bedrooms themselves, I was shocked the first time I went into one of those. I didn't have an apartment this big until I was out of grad school. The bedrooms, while they are for 2 people, right, they are really sizable, and they're beautiful spaces, really quite nice.
Perfect. So we're gonna move on to the next question. This one's a little bit more broad, but a lot of folks were asking how the honors program sort of interacts with like being a nursing major or being a business major or an engineering major. So kind of are there any specifics to how those two would be combined?
So you can be any major and successfully make it through the honors program. There are 2 majors that require a little bit more strategy and deliberate decision making, and those are nursing and mechanical engineering. And the reason for that is that those are 2 really high credit majors, meaning there's a specific sequence of classes that you need to take basically from the moment you set foot on campus until you graduate. But in both of those cases, you still have the same general education requirements as everyone else. You still have the honors contract possibilities. You still have the honors senior capstone requirement at the end. So we just need to make sure that we're watching so that you don't accidentally take a general gen ed class as opposed to an honors one. As long as we're meeting, and we'll meet every semester, your honors faculty advisor will try to meet with you as often as you want. As long as you're mindful, keeping an eye on things, it's not a problem to get anybody through.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that was a highly asked question. So another question folks were asking is, you spoke a little bit about minors. So are there any minors specific for honors students? And are there any minors that might be added in the coming years, mayhaps a sign language minor?
Ooh, that I would love to have a sign language one. Right now, we just adopted the campus. Merrimack College adopted a new general education structure this past year. We rolled it out this fall. It's going swimmingly. It's really fantastic. What it includes, and you may have heard this in other kinds of presentations, what it includes is some kind of certification or minor as part of your general education requirements, which is pretty sweet, right? General education requirements, it's 40 credits of courses that show a breadth. They reach into a variety of pots and show breadth and depth. Just as educated people. So that's what I mentioned earlier. You're going to take, make sure that you take 1 social science class, 1 humanities class, 1 STEM class. Everybody, no matter your major, is going to take those classes. But the cool thing is, off of that, off of those 6, the 6 sort of core classes that you're going to take across disciplines, you'll build out a certification or a minor as part of your general education requirements. We have a list online. I can certainly, if anyone would like to email me, I can send you the list of minors that are options. And the honors program is jumping into the fray for mindfulness studies and creative thinking starting fall of next year. We have every intention of continuing to expand what those look like. We're throwing out a lot of ideas constantly. I think there will likely be something having to do with um, political science and society coming out sooner rather than later. But what I can assure people right now is that our plan is to add 1 or 2 minors each year. And we're going to figure out what those should be, again, based on the kind of information we're getting from industry professionals and the kind of information that we're getting from students on their interests.
Perfect. So that all sounds really great. We also had a lot of questions on what those requirements are, right, to stay in the honors program. So maybe you could just go over those one more time.
Absolutely. So for all first-year students, you are required to have a 3.4 or above cumulative GPA your first year. When you move into sophomore, junior, and senior year, your minimum requirement is then a 3.5 or above GPA. Please do not let that scare you. To give you some context on what that would mean, if you in every single semester got 2 A's and 2 B's, which you won't because you're honor students, you're going to get way more A's than you're going to get B's or anything else. But if you every single semester got 2 A's and 2 B's, you would graduate with a 3.5 GPA, and that would be absolutely fine. More than likely, what will happen is you'll get an abundance of A's throughout the years. You'll get the occasional B, God forbid, but it happens, the occasional C, and sometimes one rogue grade might even be lower than that. But because of the way we have the program set up, you just need to have that 3.5 or above, and it's really quite easy to do that for most people. Again, to alleviate concerns, I can tell you that approximately 96% of our students who enter into the program graduate from the program. So we really, truly do not lose a lot of students along the way. Occasionally, we will lose a student, if I'm being completely transparent, who says for some reason, right, the idea of having a minimum GPA is stressing me out more than I need it to, and that person may elect to leave. So that's sort of where that other 4% comes in. The 4% is not necessarily students who don't meet the minimum GPA. It's sometimes students who say it's the GPA minimum is getting in my head, and I don't think it's in my best interest to keep moving, which is completely fair, and we fully support that. For students whose GPAs do dip below the minimum requirement in any given semester, we have an extremely flexible, generous probationary policy. It couldn't really be more generous. Every student gets 1 probationary semester, and that when I say probation, people get worried. They're like, oh, it sounds like, I've done something really bad. No. If your GPA, let's say, is a 3.33 your first year, you're going to get a message from me that says, hey, no big deal, but you're on probation this semester, honors probation. All that means is you need to come meet with me once or twice during the semester, and I want to make sure that you're utilizing all of the resources on campus that are available to you. It's just about making sure that we are highlighting the support is there. Let's make sure that you know how to access it. If there happens to be a subsequent semester where that GPA doesn't quite reach the required minimum, then students get an email from me saying, look, you have 2 options. If this is too much, you can drop the program. Please don't do that thing, right? I say it in the message, please don't do that. Instead, I'll ask them to write a short appeal letter, which just explains what's going on, whether that's life circumstances, and we've certainly all been there, life gets complicated, or there's a class that's particularly difficult that a student is struggling with. We just need to know why the GPA is where it's at, and then the Honors Program Committee, which is comprised of faculty around campus. It's an elected position. Faculty around campus will almost inevitably grant more probationary semesters. So as I like to tell people, really the only way to get kicked out of this program is if you kick yourself out of the program. You can have as much time as you need, from my perspective, to get that GPA to where it needs to be. When it's sort of the last time that we can make exceptions is the end of fall of senior year. If the GPA is not at the minimum by then, that's the GPA we use to determine graduation from the program. But really, the academic portion is part of staying in good status. The other part is attending events, right? Picking that engagement path, that adventure path, and attending some events each year that relate to that. That's all that's really required for staying in good status.
Fabulous. And so kind of merging 2 questions together, but could you guys speak a little bit more about the internship opportunities that honors students are sort of eligible for, and then kind of mixing that in with those engagement paths? Somebody asked, are you allowed to choose the same engagement path 2 years in a row, or do you have to choose a different one every year?
Sure. So we have an amazing O'Brien Career Center on campus. They work beautifully with our honor students. I want to say it's almost as simple as you walk in and you say, hey, I'm an honor student and I would like to work towards getting an internship or a co-op. And they say, sit down. Like, let's talk about what it is that you're looking for. They know that their job is to secure those kinds of opportunities for our honor students. And they do it brilliantly. They do it quickly. So internships, I mean, they're guaranteed at Merrimack. The engagement paths, of course, yes. If you can choose a different engagement path or honors engagement path. Each year that you're here, you can stick with the same one. Or if I'm being completely honest, I've had a couple of students say, hey, I actually think I want to move over to leadership from academics mid-semester, and that's absolutely fine. We just want to make sure that you are engaging in some way and starting to create that narrative of excellence that we want you to have when you exit campus.
Fabulous. Thank you. And another question folks had was a little bit more about like balancing, right? Things. So could you guys speak a little bit more about being in honors, maybe and also being a nursing major or being in honors and then also being a student athlete as well?
I'm going to leave that to you two, Maria and Mia.
I'm not a nursing major, but I am a chemistry major, data science and math minors. And I have a lot of other leadership positions on campus, like I'm the president of the student body. So I feel like when it comes to combining honors and other involvements, it's not about having enough time for everything. It's rather trying to figure out how you can take what honors gives you, all of those resources, and use them to your advantage. I really think people think that honors is something you have to put more time into, where in reality, it's just almost an unlimited resource for you to have that support whenever you need it. A lot of positions I got on campus were thanks to all of that support I had in the program. So it's really, people often ask like how can I do both and whether it's too much. I don't think honors is really something that will take all of your energy and time. It's rather going to give you all of that.
And maybe as students you guys might be friends with some student athletes, have you ever encountered a situation where a lot of folks are asking if they're athletes and they wanted to maybe live with their teammates who aren't in honors? Is that a possibility, or are they required to live with other honors students?
So for approximately 27% of our honors program students are also Division I athletes. So they're low. I mean, I don't think there's a sport that we don't have a student connected to, and it's fine. We really don't hear very often at all. I mean, sports players are I think by nature so good at time management, right? They have to be. So we don't really hear much about there being a conflict. What I do hear occasionally is students will reach out at the end of the semester and say, "Hey, I wasn't able to get my engagement points, right? I wasn't able to pursue my adventure pathway as much as I would have liked to this semester. Is that a problem?" And of course not. I mean, we all have semesters where things get intense and we can't do the sort of extras. It's not a big deal at all. But I honestly can't say that I hear that there's a conflict between sports and the honors program. Students who come in as part of a sports team, you're welcome to live with whoever you want. That's not a problem. Honors housing is here for you, and in some cases, we're able to place some sports teams or if there are, let's say, 4 soccer players on a sports team, you might have the option of living in an honor space or with others, the rest of the team. That's absolutely fine with us. You're not required to live in honors housing by any stretch of the imagination. And I should also mention, for those of you who are commuters, we have all kinds of commuters in the program as well. You do not have to live in our living learning community to reap the benefits of the program.
Kind of going off of that, our honors athletes also are able to get involved in the honors program. We have a whole committee in our honors student council dedicated to athletics, and there's numerous D1 athletes that are a part of that committee. So it's definitely balance, and we know that they can balance, but they can also get involved in things as well.
That's great. Thank you guys so much for that. I know a lot of folks were kind of a little bit just like, how can I balance that? Who can I live with? Another question folks had was, what if they're coming in with some dual enrollment credits already? How does that work with the honors program?
So students who come in with credits, whether those are dual enrollment or they're transfer credits, automatically move from an 8-course requirement in the honors program to a 6-course requirement. The assumption being that as you were completing those sort of intro level classes, you've already taken non-honors versions of classes that we would have had you take in honors. So let's just cut a couple of those requirements out for you. In terms of the rest of the credits, we'll take a deep dive into what general education classes your dual enrollment credits or transfer credits will have met, and then we'll plan around that. But we had a student come in, oh geez, I want to say he came in with like 88 credits, something I'd never seen before. Just for context, it's 124 credits to graduate from college. He came in with all kinds of them and still was interested in joining the honors program. We did the math, and as long as he could still take 6 honors classes or turn non-honors classes into honors classes via the honors contract option, no problem. He can get through it.
Great. That's really great to hear. So don't worry, guys, you can bring all your credits. Another question was whether currently does the honors program have students who have learning disabilities, or maybe students who are also part of our Activate program on campus as well?
Absolutely yes to both. We certainly have students who overlap with Activate, who self-disclose, and I speak now as an English professor, not the honors program director. I regularly have students in honors classes who will come up with accessibility forms and say, explain these are the needs that I have. No problem at all. I don't have a statistic for you, but now that it's such a great question, I wish I did have a statistic. But I will say that it is not unusual for students with learning disabilities to succeed and thrive in the honors program.
Amazing. Yes, we're a very welcoming community here, so no worries there. Some students also wanted to know a little bit more about those study abroad opportunities that you had mentioned, and we're wondering if everybody in the honors program has the opportunity to study abroad.
To the best of my knowledge, everyone has the opportunity to study abroad. Now, as I say that, I'm thinking of a caveat. There are some majors on campus. I'm thinking again of nursing and mechanical engineering, where we would have to be very deliberate about when you could do that. But the good news is we offer, so this year, the honors program has a 6-week summer study abroad opportunity with Dr. Peter Ellard, who I mentioned before. That is associated with John Cabot University in Rome, and students can go with Dr. Ellard, our very own professor, right, who everyone is comfortable with. You can go with him to JCU, John Cabot, and live in Rome, take a class with Dr. Ellard, and also take another class at JCU. I say this in some of the open houses. I mean, can you imagine being able to tell a story of studying Italian architecture in Rome as like a sophomore in college? I mean, that's mind-blowing to me. That's beautiful. So where I'm going with this is that we have currently summer offerings. Summer offerings are perfect for students whose majors have exact classes for fall and spring that are requirements. We're moving towards adding in some even shorter, like 10-day to 12-day trips during either spring break or at the end of the semester, and maybe moving forward even into winter. But again, we're polling students all the time. Where do you want to go? What are the places that you would like to see us offer honors opportunities to? So the answer is yes, anybody can do it with some deliberate decision making. And some majors, I'm not going to lie to you, are a little more rigorous than others in terms of the classes, but everybody can do it. And we started off with the Rome experience last summer. We had a trip to Munich and Prague planned for the end of spring, moving into summer of this semester. Turns out that we only had 4 students who ultimately were interested in going, so we're not going to end up offering it. But the point is, we had it created and it was ready to go if there would have been more student interest. And I know that one of our amazing professors, Dr. Brittany Aiello, is working on a spring into summer trip to Portugal coming up soon.
Amazing. So definitely a lot of study abroad opportunities out there. It is 7, so I'm going to wrap up the Q&A section of this evening. But if any of you right now on the Zoom or anyone watching the recording later on has any questions, you can always reach out to any one of us. You can always send over some questions to admission@merrimack.edu as well. So all of our contact is on the Merrimack website for you to find, and we welcome all questions. So I'll pass it back to you, Ellen, for some final words.
I want to thank you all for bearing with me. This is a long time to be on a Zoom. I appreciate your time. It's a busy season. If just echoing what Carrie said, if you have any questions or concerns, please always feel very free to email me directly. You can find my contact information on our website. You could also ask any of our admissions liaisons and counselors for email addresses for myself, for Mia, for Maria, and I can assure you that we'll get back to you ASAP. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.